time for another coffee with Kilroy. What is this with me doubling up on coffee with Kilroy's? Well, I've got a lot of books and postcards and paper products that I usually cover in my coffee with Kilroy's. As you know, I call this beverage in a book with my beverage and this book today. So this is a bonus feature. I just picked up this book. Actually doing some research or looking for some stuff for next week. Spoiler alert, be on the lookout for next week. It's going to be a theme week. See if you can guess what theme it will be. But as I was doing some book hunting, I found this book, Tales of War, Great Stories from Military History for Every Day of the Year by W.B. Marsh and Bruce Carrick. Let me get a sip here. And basically, this is military history for every day of the week and every day of the year in that regard here. So I imagine this is going to have 365 days. It's got a little index back there and the like. So there you go, December 31st. So, yeah, this is a book of stories that is separated by days. And I have some other books like that. I have like a battle book that covers major battles for every day of the year. And it's just, these are interesting kind of novelties when you kind of look at it to see what happened on that date or what that story is. And with that, I think I'm going to come down a little bit so we get a little bit closer to this book, because today is June 2nd. And so we turn to June 2nd and we see what is the story that day. And the story that day is death comes to Giuseppe Garibaldi. 1882, south of Corsica, northeast of Sardinia, lies a tiny island of Caparetta. Yeah, I'm butchering that, I know. Stony and dry like its neighbors, where the weather is mild but farmers' life is hard. Caparetta's most eminent resident was the gnarled but still hardy Giuseppe Garibaldi, the great Italian patriot, revolutionary, and general. Even in old age, he carried a sizable beard, and his high, noble brow gave him a rather Masonic appearance. The most famous man in Europe in the second half of the 19th century, Garibaldi had captured Europe's imagination and indeed the fear and hatred of many European governments with his flamboyant leadership. And then we have some Italian there, which of course I'm going to defer to my good friend Dan to translate for me. I can offer you neither honor nor wages. I offer you hunger, thirst, forced marches, battles, and death. Boy, that sounds like a motivation speech. And they came in the thousands, donning the famous red shirts that became their emblem, although the tradition has it that Garibaldi chose the color so that his followers would know they would be visible if they ran away in the heat of battle. Together they outfought and outfoxed the decaying monarchy of Sicily and forced the papacy to relinquish most of its territorial claims. Garibaldi had been born 4th of July, 1807. His first battles for freedom were not for Italy, but for South America, where he spent 12 years fighting in one or another country, striving to throw off the Spanish rule. There he learned the business of soldiering and of fighting guerrilla style. At various times he was shot, imprisoned, starved, and tortured. He returned to Italy, a formidable fighting man. More than any other man, Garibaldi created the united Italy of today. He spent his last days in Caparetta, and here, at the age of 74, he died on this day. Here he is also buried. Now, why did I decide to read that today? Well, it's June 2nd, so that's one reason why I decided to read that. But wanted to spark an interest. If you want to learn more about Giuseppe Garibaldi, look him up. He's a very interesting person. He fought on different continents. He fought for the independence of Italy, the unification of Italy, numerous times. There were several wars for Italy, the Kingdom of Italy, and the unification of Italy, and the freedom of Italy. And he fought in them and fought against European forces. And was a relatively savvy general, as you can see from his motivation speech there. He also, fought against, the French and the Austrians and all the major European powers of the day that got involved in Italy's claims and rights in that regard. And one of the reasons why I wanted to pull that out, because I actually have a game on a portion of his history and his conquest and his battling. Let me get some coffee here to make room for Garibaldi. Now, this is not a war game. This is a somewhat of a Euro game. It's actually based on the old. Golly, what's that called? It's not. I want to say Sherlock, but Scotland Yard, kind of a hidden movement where one side or either one or a group of people are trying to find the other person. Scotland Yard was we were several Scotland Yard police officers trying to find the criminal. This takes that same kind of mechanism, elaborates on it, and then from this, some other games like Letters to Whitechapel and some of its expansions and derivations came out of that. Letters to Whitechapel is probably a lot more famous than this, which kind of takes that hidden movement to a different level, and that's really about trying to track down Jack the Ripper. This one, you're playing the one side will be playing the Austrians, and I believe maybe the French as well, but mainly the Austrians, which were hunting down Garibaldi in 1849, and he was on the run. I think he had end up collecting maybe 250 followers that stayed with him during this, and his wife, who was Anita, who was pregnant with their fifth child. I think she died on this during this time period when he was kind of on the run, and so with that, this game recreates just that period. So let's take a look inside the box here and see what we get. So there's definitely some history in here, something to learn about him in here, but it really is a game, and it comes in 2 languages. So there's more of that Italian, and it's Nexus Games. Is the publisher of this, but the rules aren't that long. As you see, they flip over one side. There's only 6 pages of rules, albeit it's very big paper there, and relatively it's medium to small size print. But basically, it's a hidden movement. So one person's going to play Garibaldi, and you're going to be tracking your movement and where you start on the board, and then they are going to try to corral you. I mean, you're going to have this Garibaldi, who has this board, so they can keep track of where they're moving and how they're moving, and kind of marking it on this pad here. But the other forces are going to be moving on this map here, and so nice little mounted map here. And then there's a lot of card play. There's cards that you can play for movement or for the event. They kind of have 2 sides to them to do different things on here, and you're going to be moving on this board with these pawns here. And of course, Garibaldi's not on this board. He's marking his movement secretly, but you are trying to figure out where he's at and trying to corral him in. Fury of Dracula, which was I believe it was a Games Workshop, and then Fantasy Flight took that. That has some of this same hidden movement mechanisms in here where you're trying to track down Dracula. There's a lot more to that game. There's combat in that game, and some of the other tropes that go along with the Dracula mythos. But this is basically a straight hidden movement. You're trying to capture Garibaldi, and it has some of these nice thick cards that also represents. I think this represents maybe starting points for him, and you got some other thick cards here that represent other areas as well. It's been a while since I played this game, and in fact, I still have in shrink the Italian cards. So when you come around, here you go. We can play with these cards. But anyway, so I thought I'd share this today with reading of that passage. I don't know if I'm going to do a passage every day. There's 365 days. That's a lot of coffee, even for me. And I'm already doing 2 a day here, so my doctor says I gotta cut back. So, but I might, from time to time pull that book out and see what it has to offer on an interesting day, and especially if I have a game that goes along with with the passage, I'll probably maybe pull that out as well and talk about that a little bit. As I said, I like learning history, and one of the ways I like learning history the best. I like reading, of course, and I like movies, but I like playing games with the tactile feel that relates to history. I think I learn it a little bit better, and so this kind of merges. This book kind of merges that. I can read a passage and actually have a game on this. So this is Garibaldi, a hidden movement game. If you're, you cannot play this solo. I don't know if I needed to say that, but I'll say it anyway, because you need to. It is hidden movement, so you need to have somebody track. That's the whole point of the game, is trying to track you down. Anyway, there's a lot of games in this area. There was the Scotland Yard, Fury of Dracula, Letters of Whitechapel. There were some sequels to that. In fact, there's a more of a modern day game called Narcos that I have that has hidden movement as well. It adds a lot more to it. You're having to set up drug labs and get money out of the country, and you got the federales trying to track you down. It's a little bit more involved and a little bit more adult than just a hidden movement like this. But this mechanism is interesting, and it's some people really like this mechanism, and it's kind of a puzzle. It's a lot of bluffing, and it kind of brings its own way of resolving conflict to the board. I mean, it's just a different feel of a game. Anyway, that's what I have for you today from Tales of War on Coffee with Kilroy. Going into a little bit of a discussion of Garibaldi. Interesting game, interesting history, but more importantly, look up Giuseppe Garibaldi. Look him up, Wikipedia, wherever you can find him. Very interesting life, very interesting individual, especially from a military history point of view. All the different things and battles and exploits that he undertook. Anyway. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoy your day. Hope this is not too much coffee for you today, given that I had an earlier coffee with Kilroy. And I'll probably have a weekly update today, if at all possible, so you can see what happened during the week if you missed out. And those are for those of you who are scoring at home. As always, take care. Thanks for watching.